What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and as you can see I have a giant book open on my lap. This is actually the Hyrule Historia. I was just kind of going through it because I think the lore and history of Zelda is such an interesting series, and this covers it well. The reason I'm going back through this is today we got some amazing Zelda news. They have currently begun development on the next game. This is pretty freaking exciting because Breath of the Wild is undoubtedly a masterpiece. It is giant, cool, and totally different from the rest of the franchise. So today, I kind of just want to celebrate this good news by actually counting down 3 things that I actually hope they bring in this sequel. Starting with more story and character. Now, I think that one of the most interesting aspects about Breath of the Wild was all the voice acting and, well, all the actual plot. We actually see all these characters talk and have internal struggles. We see these 4 giant heroes who have failed at a war 100 years ago. There's all these interesting aspects to the Zelda games that have been great, but this was the first game that actually kind of emotionally invested me. I've always had fun with Zelda, but Breath of the Wild was the first one where I actually thought that these characters were real. When they succeeded or when they failed, it mattered. Knowing that these people have died all these years ago trying to defeat Ganon made me defeating him all the more important. I really want to see them take this further. I want to see the next game with maybe not necessarily more characters, but maybe more cutscenes, more side quests with actual plot in there, more of this good writing. I feel like genuinely that's kind of what shocked me about Breath of the Wild is that they could write such interesting, in-depth people, because that's what these felt like. These other heroes and people we crossed paths with felt like actual people in the Nintendo universe. And this brings me right along to point 2. I really want them to bring back time travel. I feel like that's the Zelda games I enjoyed most, of course, like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, but I feel like now we have this rare opportunity. Since this series has been going on for over 30 years, there is a lot of history, there's a lot of lore, and there's a lot of backlog stuff. All these events have taken place, and I think it'd be really cool if we saw a Zelda that finally revisited some of these ideas and some of these characters. Now, hear me out on this. I think it would be awesome if the next game, which I'm just going to call Breath of the Wild 2, I don't think it's really going to be Breath of the Wild 2, but I'm just using it as a placeholder word here. Imagine if Breath of the Wild 2, or whatever the next Zelda is, actually has some sort of portal or time travel device that lets us go back and visit other links, other people who are currently on their own journey to save Hyrule. I think one of the parts of Twilight Princess that really struck me most, and really kind of impressed me, is when you actually meet the skeleton of a past hero of time. When he meets this character, even though he's been defeated long ago, it's so cool seeing that this hero still wants to fight. Even as an ancient ghost at this point, he's trying to teach you new sword crafts. He wants you to be a better Link than he was. And I find that super cool, and I'd like to see a lot more of that. I'm sort of just picturing the idea of sort of a modern version of Ocarina of Time, but open world. Maybe have it where we're going along, but there's certain elements where you go to part of a world and you're trying to solve a puzzle, and then you have to go backwards in time or forward in time to team up with other links that have existed in order to help you through this. That would be incredibly cool, and I think it would be a really cool way to kind of tie the entire series together. So many of the Zeldas have just been these little islands. Each one is its own little disconnected story, and while they do connect in a vague sense, for the most part, each one stands on its own. And I think it'd be really cool if we just saw one that kind of threw that out the window just one time and brought back time travel. And I would like for them to bring it back in a big way. The last thing that I really want to see them improve upon in this coming up sequel of Breath of the Wild 2, or whatever it ends up being called, is I want to see a lot more dungeons, and I want a lot bigger dungeons. The dungeons in Breath of the Wild are cool, they're very unique, and I like the fact that they kind of shift and change as you figure them out. But I've always wanted to see more of the classic style dungeons that are deep and really intricate. I want to see dungeons that take 2 or 3 hours to complete. Stuff that it doesn't take long to get to them, but finishing them is quite the event. That's kind of my favorite stuff of older Zeldas, like Wind Waker, is actually going into these places and trying to figure out where you go, what you do, how you defeat these new enemies, getting new items that are then going to be used on the boss. I like those type of things where you kind of get confused, turned around with all these multi-layers and stuff. My favorite part of classic Zeldas is sometimes just being like, where the hell am I? How the hell am I going to leave? That's so cool to me because I feel like the trapped part of it is probably how Zelda, or how Link actually feels. He's just a regular guy stuck in some very extraordinary situations, and I want to see that come back in a bigger way. Make it where dungeons are a primary focus instead of just kind of a stop. Now, the dungeons in Breath of the Wild are interesting, like I just said a second ago, but they were definitely a lot more contained. They were a little spot you went to, you knocked it out, and then you didn't really go back. I'd kind of like to see something where we're actually encouraged to go back into giant dungeons. Say there's something like you get a time travel skill, and it makes where each dungeon can actually shift between realities. So you have to go to like the area of the Dodongos, or whatever, the giant fire-breathing creatures of Ocarina of Time, and you start solving a puzzle there, and then it shifts to a different timeline, and it's actually flooded, and it's part of a water dungeon of Twilight Princess, and like, I think it'd be cool if we solved the dungeons shifting between time to actually re-go through them and solve different eras' problems. This is just me kind of spitballing, because really, at this point, there's unlimited potential. These directors have proven themselves now as being extremely talented, and no matter what, we're obviously all going to buy it and play it. Zelda is a figurehead that just keeps getting better and better. Breath of the Wild is a monumental success. It's a testament to how fun and different a game can be when even if a series is super old. So right now, I'm just kind of sitting here thinking about all the possibilities that are coming up. I do want to say I'm a little bit worried that it's going to be 2D. Previously, I was excited about it, but I think the only reason I'd be happy for a 2D game is if it was coming out very soon. At this point, I'm actually quite addicted to this giant open world format of Breath of the Wild. I think that was a really smart change and something that really helped the overall narrative and flow. So if they turned it back 2D, even if it was something that was very freeform like A Link Between Worlds, I'm not sure I would like that as much. This giant open world way of doing it, especially with the really creative DLC, it's really kind of proven that this is what Zelda thrives at. Seeing Link drive around on a motorcycle and stuff like that, it shows just how fun, silly, and incredible this series can be. But this has just been my 2 cents. What do you think about it? Would you actually be happy if we got a 2D Zelda in 2 years, or are you happy waiting another 4 or 5 years for another giant epic 3D Zelda? Let me know your thoughts down below, and also tell me the one thing you want to see most in an upcoming Zelda. Right now, this is a very exciting time, so I'm really curious what you have to say. Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. While I was filming this, I accidentally I dropped my Hyrule Historia pretty hard. Let me make sure I didn't break it. Sometimes when I film this, I have to edit out all the screw-ups because I'm a little bit of a klutz. Oh, hi. I'm just working on the next video. If you want to see what it is, go ahead and click this button and you can subscribe. Also, if you click these video links, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. Now I'm just going to sit here for a minute and wait for you to subscribe. Oh, I guess I could put on these giant glasses. I literally found these on a roller coaster.